Zuma and the Premier League met as usual to discuss the latest developments in the party. He was in a good mood, confident, in control. Everything was going according to plan. He had been comfortably re-elected as ANC president. The troublesome youth league leaders had been expelled, and most importantly, his chosen candidate had secured the deputy presidency. Two of the premiers shared his satisfaction, but one of them had serious concerns. He kept them to himself, of course. He always did. Among the four, he was the quiet observer, the one who paid attention when others didn't. People often underestimated him. He looked simple, maybe even unsophisticated, but his instincts were sharp, and something about this conference didn't sit right. If Ramaphosa was a political weakling, then why did he win so convincingly? The deputy presidency was a highly contested position. His opponents were no pushovers. Ramaphosa was running against Mathews Phosa and Sexwale. Mathews Phosa was no ordinary candidate. He had just held the position of Treasurer General, which is often considered the second most powerful role in the party after the Secretary General. Now he was running for deputy, and he had substantial political influence. Sexwale wasn't just a businessman. He had been an ever-present figure in ANC politics and even served as a minister in Zuma's first cabinet. On paper, both Phosa and Tokyo held significantly more political influence compared to Ramaphosa. But when the results were announced, Ramaphosa had over 3,000 votes. Phosa and Tokyo, barely 400 each. What was alarming is that he had more votes than Zuma did. This wasn't just a victory, it was a complete political decimation. And yet, most comrades seemed to overlook this disturbing reality. How did Ramaphosa, seen by many as weak, destroy his opponents so effortlessly? Yes, he had their support, but the number of votes were more than what was expected. His win suggested that he was more popular than Zuma at the conference. This quiet premier couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was at play, a hidden force, a silent power that no one was talking about. It bothered him, but he said nothing. After all, he too was a silent, influential figure, often ignored but always watching. Maybe one day their paths would cross. For now, he would wait. Every ANC elective conference follows the same script. The headlines focus on the candidates. Who's running, who's ahead, who's losing support. But that's all a distraction, because no one wins the ANC presidency alone. The real battle isn't about individuals, it's about provinces. And in this game, some provinces don't just vote, they decide. They decide who rises, they decide who falls. And if you're not in their favor, you don't stand a chance. For decades, one simple rule has held true. You don't become ANC president unless the right provinces back you. And in 2012 ANC elective conference, two provinces didn't just play the game. They control the board. KwaZulu-Natal and Mpumalanga. Jacob Zuma knew this better than anyone. He owned KZN, no questions asked. Mpumalanga? That was Mabuza's empire. Together, they weren't just powerful, they were untouchable. They built a faction so strong, so calculated, that it dictated who sat at the top. They had Northwest and Free State in their pocket. Not big enough to swing an election alone, but together? They tipped the scales. They didn't just win battles, they made presidents. And in 2012, that's exactly what they did. They brought back Cyril Ramaphosa. Not as a threat, not as an equal, as a seat warmer, a placeholder, until they were ready to crown their real successor. They installed their own leaders in the ANC Youth League. They controlled the ANC Women's League. They weren't just winning, they were building an empire. And then, they made their move. The succession plan that should have worked. Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma wasn't just anyone in ANC politics. She was qualified, respected, and a political force. A long-serving cabinet minister, a former AU commission chair, a political force. And with Zuma's backing, she should have walked into the presidency. But she didn't, because one man wasn't playing by their rules. Ramaphosa knew the truth. He couldn't win provinces like KZN. It was locked, sealed, unshakable. So he didn't waste time trying. Instead, he did something more dangerous. He weakened them. He found the fractures inside KZN. He offered its rival factions a deal, the position of Secretary General. He split the province just enough to take away its power as a kingmaker. And suddenly, the battlefield had shifted. For the first time in years, Zuma's faction wasn't invincible. But that wasn't the real turning point. The real fight? It came down to one province. Mpumalanga, the kingmaker. Mabuza was one of them. He was part of the Premier League. He should have backed Dlamini-Zuma. But something had changed. Mabuza wasn't declaring his support. He wasn't following orders. He was waiting. And that's when it became clear. The Premier League was cracking. Mabuza saw what others didn't. He saw the weakness in Zuma's camp, the internal wars, the growing divisions, the looming risk of losing the national election. And that's when he made his move. He didn't pledge loyalty to Dlamini-Zuma. He didn't pledge loyalty to Ramaphosa either. He pledged loyalty to one thing, himself. And he started preaching the one thing everyone wanted to hear: unity. He held his cards close to his chest. He played both sides. He didn't make enemies. He made himself essential. And when the dust settled, Zuma's faction was broken. Ramaphosa was president. And Mabuza, he landed exactly where he wanted. Second in command deputy president. Because in the ANC, ideology doesn't win elections. Power does. And in this game, the shrewd cat always lands on its feet.